In this lecture, we will be looking at the various types of freshwater biomes. Freshwater biomes can be divided into a myriad of types, from mountain streams to rivers, lakes, floodplains, and wetlands. We will be taking a look at these. Freshwater environments are less extensive, but still important centers of biodiversity, and in general, most terrestrial communities rely on freshwater environments. Freshwater habitats are divided into lentic systems, which are the still waters, including ponds, lakes, swamps, and mires, lotic, or running water systems, and groundwater, which flows in rocks and aquifers. There is, in addition, a zone which bridges between groundwater and lotic systems, which is the hyperheic zone, which underlies many larger rivers and can contain substantially more water than is seen in the open channel. It may also be in direct contact with the underlying underground water. The majority of fresh water on Earth is in ice caps. Freshwater lakes, like marine environments, have distinct vertical zones. Near the surface, a subcommunity of plankton, mainly microscopic plants, animals, and protists, single-celled organisms such as amoeba, float freely in the water column. Insects, such as water striders and mosquitoes, also live at the air-water interface. Fish move through the water column, sometimes near the surface and sometimes at depth. Finally, the bottom, or benthos, is occupied by a variety of snails, burrowing worms, fish, and other organisms. These make up the benthic community. Oxygen levels are lowest in the benthic environment, mainly because there is little mixing to introduce oxygen to this zone. Anaerobic, or not using oxygen, bacteria may live in low oxygen sediments. In the littoral zone, emergent plants, such as cattails and rushes, grow in the bottom sediment. These plants create important functional links between layers of an aquatic ecosystem, and they may provide the greatest primary productivity to the system. The layers of a deep lake are determined mainly by gradients of light, oxygen, and temperature. The epilimnion is affected by surface mixing from wind and thermal conventions, while mixing between the hypolimnion and epilimnion is inhibited by a sharp temperature and density difference at the thermocline. Wetlands are shallow ecosystems in which the land surface is saturated or submerged at least part of the year. Wetlands have vegetation that is adapted to grow under saturated conditions. These legal definitions are important because, although wetlands make up only a small part of most countries, they are disproportionately important in conservation debates and are the focus of continual legal disputes in North America and elsewhere around the world. Beyond these basic descriptions, defining wetlands is a matter of hot debate. How often must the wetland be saturated, and for how long? How large must it be to deserve legal protection? Answers can vary depending on political as well as ecological concerns. These relatively small systems support rich biodiversity, and they are essential for both breeding and migrating birds. Although wetlands occupy less than 5% of the land in the United States, the Fish and Wildlife Service estimates that 1/3 of all endangered species spend at least part of their lives in wetlands. Wetlands retain stormwater and reduce flooding by slowing the rate at which rainfall reaches river systems. Floodwater storage is worth $3 billion to $4 billion per year in the United States. As water stands in wetlands, it also seeps into the ground, replenishing groundwater supplies. Wetlands filter and even purify urban and farm runoff as bacteria and plants take up nutrients and contaminants in water. They are also in great demand for filling and development. They are often near cities or farms where land is valuable, and once drained, wetlands are easily converted to more lucrative uses. At least half of all the wetlands that existed in the United States when Europeans first arrived have been drained, filled, or degraded. In some major farming states, losses have been even greater. Iowa, for example, has lost 99% of its original wetlands. Wetlands are described by their vegetation. Swamps, also called forested wetlands, are wetlands with trees. Marshes are wetlands without trees. Bogs are areas of water-saturated ground, and usually the ground is composed of deep layers of accumulated, undecayed vegetation known as peat. Fens are similar to bogs except that they are mainly fed by groundwater so that they have mineral-rich water and specially adapted plant species. Many bogs are fed by precipitation. Swamps and marshes have high biological productivity. Bogs and fens, which are often nutrient poor, have low biological productivity. They may have unusual and interesting species, though, such as sundews and pitcher plants, which are adapted to capture nutrients from insects rather than from soil. The water in marshes and swamps usually is shallow enough to allow full penetration of sunlight and seasonal warming. These mild conditions favor great photosynthetic activity, resulting in high productivity at all trophic levels. In short, life is abundant and varied. Wetlands are major breeding, nesting, and migration staging areas for waterfowl and shorebirds. Streams form wherever precipitation exceeds evaporation and surplus water drains from the land. Within small streams, ecologists distinguish areas of riffles, where water runs rapidly over rocky substrate, and pools, which are deeper stretches of a slowly moving current. Water tends to be well mixed and oxygenated in riffles. Pools tend to collect silt and organic matter. If deep enough, pools can have vertical zones similar to those of lakes. As streams collect water and merge, they form rivers, although there isn't a universal definition of when one turns into the other. Ecologists consider a river system to be a continuum of constantly changing environmental conditions and community inhabitants, from the headwaters to the mouth of a drainage or watershed. The biggest distinction between streams and lake ecosystems is that, in a stream, materials, including plants, animals, and water, are continually moved downstream by flowing currents. This downstream drift is offset by active movement of animals upstream, productivity in the stream itself, and input of materials from adjacent wetlands or uplands.